Good morning, everybody. This is Stephen Pugh of the Home Bible College. It is February the 5th, and we're beginning our reading in Exodus chapter 39. So in today's Bible reading, we have the making of the priest's clothes, and in particular, the high priest's clothes, and the completion of the tabernacle work. And finally, the tabernacle can come together into a completed form. And lastly, we see that the Lord fills the tabernacle with his presence. First, we see the holy garments made for Aaron, the high priest. These clothes are truly spectacular. The colours are vivid and striking. The crowning feature of this dress was the phrase embroidered into the headdress. On a plate of gold it said, "Holiness unto the Lord." And so with the making of the high priest garments, we have the completion of the whole tabernacle. And when everything was finished, they brought them all to Moses, who inspected everything, and it was all exactly as the Lord had commanded, and Moses blessed it all. Then the Lord said to Moses that the tabernacle was to be set up on the first day of the first month, and so Moses supervised the complete assembly of the tabernacle. And then the cloud descended onto the tent of the congregation, and Moses was unable to enter the tabernacle, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. The cloud became the abiding symbol of the presence of God. Now, let's go back over this passage. Just want to highlight a couple of things. Have a look at what it says in the first passage and verse 2. It says, "He made the ephod of gold, blue, purple, scarlet, and fine twined linen." Now, apart from the fact that this is absolutely beautiful in its combination, what we have to remember is that the gold part was made of pure gold. Now, the blue, in the ancient world, obtaining blue was very difficult. In fact, all the old masters, the old painting masters, they couldn't find a blue in the world. In fact, in the ancient world, there wasn't a word for blue. They always referred to the sky as being that of silver, not blue. And the blue of the ancient world was found in one mountain. I think the mountain is in Pakistan today, where the mountain itself is made of blue stone. And so it is the lapis lazuli, which is ground into a very fine paste and turned into basically a paint, and then that could be painted with that colour, and it would be the most vivid blue. Now, those people who understand the art world understand where the blue comes from. And very, very rare indeed, blue. And in fact, all paintings can be dated according to whether they have blue in it or not, because this was such a precious colour that actually the masters of Europe, the painting masters of Europe, couldn't obtain this blue very easily until the trade routes eventually were opened, where the blue could come right through to Europe for the masters to use to paint. We also have the purple and the scarlet. Now, purple and scarlet are different. They're not the same, of course. Of course they're not the same, because they're spoken of as being separate. Now, the purple was a combination of red with blue. And it was a very, very difficult colour to obtain. And so was scarlet. Now, scarlet was a very bright red. How these colours were obtained is difficult to know. I'm pretty sure in saying that the purple was made from the crushing of a sea shell, which produced a very strong purple colour. Now, if you remember that Lydia from Thyatira was a seller of purple. Purple was one of those colours that was exceedingly rare in the ancient world, and certainly was rare at this time. And then we have the scarlet, and it was made of fine twined linen. So the high priestly garments were not only beautiful, but they were exceptionally rare commodities. They also made shoulder pieces for it to couple it together. In verse 4, and the two edges of it were coupled together. I won't go through all of the details of all of the clothing. It is absolutely outstanding. You'll notice that the breastplate had 12 stones, and each of the stones were named with the names of the children of Israel. Take a look at that actually for a moment. It was 4 squares, so in other words it was a square, and it was a span, so 6 inches by 6 inches, 6 inches by 6 inches. And there were 4 rows of stones. The first row was a sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. That was the first row. The second row was an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. The third row was a ligure, an agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. And on those stones, according to the names of the children of Israel, were carved the names of the tribes of Israel. Now let me ask you a question. How do you engrave onto a diamond? That's a difficult one, isn't it? But these men could do it. They were able to do that. They had the know-how and they had the tools to be able to do that. So how interesting. When we come right on down, it says in verse 30, and this is my password for the day incidentally, it says in verse 30, they made the plate of the holy crown of pure gold and wrote upon it a writing like to the engravings of a signet, holiness to the Lord. That's in capitals. And they tied unto it a lace of blue, and fastened it high upon the mitre, as the Lord commanded Moses. So when the high priest went into the holy place, and even into the most holy place once a year, he had upon his mitre, upon his hat, effectively his bonnet, he had upon his hat a golden plate, and what was written on that plate was holiness to the Lord. Holiness to the Lord. Now this is something which every servant of the Lord would sit up and take notice of. This was only for Aaron, of course, we understand that, but the very concept that Aaron was holy and that his whole body and his service was holy to the Lord is something for us to all meditate upon, isn't it? Then of course the work was finished. And take a look at what it says in verse 16. Thus did Moses according to all the Lord commanded, so did he. And it came to pass on the first month of the second year, and on the first day of the month, that the tabernacle, it says, was reared up. You see, this was a wooden framework overlaid with gold and overlaid with the various coverings. From the outermost position, it would just look like badger skins. But of course nobody could see them because there was this huge wall of curtains all the way around. All they would see is the wall of curtain. And then take a look at verse 34. Then a cloud covered the tent of the congregation, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And Moses was not able to enter into the tent of the congregation, because the cloud abode thereon, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Now this sounds strange, because Moses was the man that was able to go up the mountain and speak with God. He was able to see the back of God. He was able to speak with God face to face. So how is it that he's now unable to go into the tent of the congregation? Well, he's unable to go in now because the tent is set up. And once the tent was set up, once the tabernacle was, as it were, inaugurated for the first time, and the glory of the Lord descended into it, that's when the tabernacle service began. And the tabernacle service would be stipulated that only the priests, not Moses, but only the priests would be able to go in unto the tabernacle and perform the work of the tabernacle service. Moses was not a priest. Moses was not Aaron. Moses was the lawgiver and the leader, but it was Aaron that was the high priest. So we can see there's a change, isn't there? It isn't the fact that Moses had lost his role. He still kept his role just the same. But now there was added to Israel this great institution. It was the institution of the priesthood. And this priesthood would have a function. Their function was to offer worship and praise. Their function was to be the place where the children of Israel met God, where they brought their sacrifices, and also the place where they brought their worship. They were also the people that made atonement for Israel, and they're the people that made the sacrifices for sin. So the whole thing is now set up, and this now becomes the meeting place between God and men. But they needed to have a priesthood, a holy priesthood, and upon Aaron, the high priest, was this golden notice which said that he was holiness unto the Lord. What an amazing experience. What an amazing privilege. Only the children of Israel had this great privilege in all the world. Well, God bless you. It's great to speak to you, and I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow, God willing. So bye for now.